welcome to the Mariah Jean Fit YouTube channel. I'm Coach Mariah. Make sure you like our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos as much as possible so we can reach a broader audience. We appreciate your support and enjoy the video. Hello and welcome to another vlog and podcast with the Fit Minds podcast by Mariah Jean Fit, and this is Coach Mariah here. So today we're going to dive into the topic of how to enjoy your workouts a little bit more, how to enjoy exercise a little bit more. If you're anything like me, this is the thing that I struggle with the most. Out of my nutrition and my exercise, it's my actual exercise adherence. Weirdly enough, I have a better time with nutrition adherence. So usually this comes from a place of not really feeling like wanting to work out, just wanting to sit at home, just wanting to relax, not necessarily wanting to be in a gym environment or being around other people. Even though I might seem like a super social person, I'm actually super introverted in my personal life and I like my time alone. When it comes to gym workouts, it took a long time for me to get comfortable with the idea of going to the gym daily, if not 5 to 6 times a week. Obviously, I don't go 7 days a week, but it really took a long time for me to get comfortable with that idea because it meant that I had to be around other people and it meant that I had to be interacting in a very close kind of quarters type of scenario where it's like people are right next to you. So I guess what I want to address today is some signs that you are having some exercise, what I call exercise aversion. So you're having an aversion to exercise or training, any type of specific training. You're not enjoying your workouts. You might feel like you're getting bored or you're losing motivation. These are things that I hear quite frequently from my current clients. So we're going to tackle obviously the problems first, like we always do in our podcasts, and then we're going to dive into the solutions around those problems and ways to encourage yourself internally, because a lot of this will happen up here. It's not going to be something that you need externally or that you need people to do for you to enjoy your workouts. It's probably going to come from something that you can think of yourself, which is often kind of looked past, I suppose. So we're going to start off with reasons why you're probably not enjoying your workouts or your training. Now, you probably will be able to identify with at least one of these. In fact, I think anybody listening to this podcast will find one of these points that they have felt at some given point in time in their training life, in their exercise regimes. Literally, just even if they've tried to start going, for walks, there will be one of these points that will apply to you. So, first of all, you don't know how to perform certain exercises or you don't feel comfortable doing them. You feel embarrassed or the people are watching you. So they're just constantly like on you or watching you. You feel eyes at you, on you at the gym. I think this one is certainly an irrational fear and concern. And I know that probably people think that it isn't, but most of the time, and I'm talking 95% of the time, when you think somebody's watching you or judging you at the gym or while you're exercising, you're wrong. And we have these crazy ideas in our mind that people are that interested in what we're doing. And funnily enough, it couldn't be further from the truth. When you walk into a gym, you'd have to imagine that many people are in the same headspace as you are. They just want to get their workout done. They just want to get through it. They might be focusing on their own crap they've got going on in their own mind. The trouble with a gym though is that nobody can walk around with blinkers on. It's not like you can, just not look up at some point in time. You have to find the piece of equipment you need. And in that time, there will be people around you. It is natural human nature to want to make some sort of eye contact with people around you, or to perhaps look if someone's using a piece of equipment that you might want. Now, obviously flip the script, look at it in reverse. If you're using a piece of equipment that somebody else wants, or vice versa, if someone's using a piece of equipment that you want, of course you're going to look at them to see if they're using the piece of equipment. So 9 times out of 10, when we think people are looking at us and we're worried about them judging us, they're not. If we are doing something incorrectly or the exercise isn't being performed properly, or maybe it could be adjusted, or maybe it's not perfect, it would be very silly of somebody to judge you and to look upon you as if you don't know what you're doing, because many people have been in this position before. If you are concerned about exercises that you're doing, it is actually really easy to get help to learn how to do these properly. And it doesn't mean that you are silly or, you're I don't know, you're not smart or something like that. Obviously, I had to learn my exercises somehow at some given point in time. I had lots of mentors along the way. I had people I knew that worked in gyms. I had people who were coaches. I had friends who would go and do workouts with me and show me how to do exercises. And even so, as time went on, I would also research, and I had a lot of education behind what I've learned myself. So you actually have this at your fingertips. The internet is incredible in what you can learn. Even YouTube, for example, and some people are against YouTube demonstration videos, but I'm going to tell you, if a coach has put the effort to put a demo video online, you're going to want to bet that it's going to have some sort of substance to it. If that form doesn't work for you, then you can probably seek out another video that would be appropriate. But if you have a structured training program, that's executed via an app, which we've got as coaches on my team, we have an app. We have an app that has demonstration videos for every one of your exercises. So you cannot use the excuse, I do not know how to do this exercise. It's right in front of you. The form is right there. So the advice is always that try and center yourself in that moment of where you think someone's looking at you, judging you, staring at you, in that they may not be, number one, and most likely they're not. And number two, if you're still unsure about how to do something, it's okay to reach out, ask for help, or seek out your own education. So the next point, you aren't quite used to the fact that weight training can be a little bit painful sometimes, and that's completely normal. Can't tell you how many times I've had clients start and go, oh, it really hurts. Yes, it does hurt. Weight training is kind of like that. It's tearing muscle and repairing it. So muscle tears are pretty brutal on a I suppose like a micro level of what's actually occurring to your muscle. It's pretty gross. So it's going to be pretty painful. In the beginning, first couple of weeks, a new regime, if you haven't been exercising for a while, you're going to get what's called DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, basically where you don't probably get sore straight after your workout, maybe the day after or a couple days after. The soreness is normal. It does subside over time. It's not a bad thing or a good thing that happens. If anything, it's probably a good thing. Your body is adapting and getting used to it. But you're going to have to get used to the soreness, okay? And you're also probably going to have to learn to embrace it, that it is a sign that you've been training, right? So if you are worried about soreness, and I can't stress this enough, if it is in the joint or the ligament, or you've got a really sore back, or your knees are starting to ache, or your neck is really hurting, you've got to be mindful, even your elbow joints as well, you've got to be mindful that some of this stuff is basically telling us we need to address it. So it might be that, yeah, you might not be performing an exercise properly, or maybe your form's not quite right, or maybe you're slightly turning inwards on certain exercises with your knees. There are so many different ways that humans move and learn how to move naturally, and it doesn't make you dumb if you don't move in the correct direction that's best for your body and best for your health and your goals. It just means you need to adjust it. So if we know, that brings me to the next point, that we are struggling with exercises and we're getting pain that's more like joint pain, ligament pain, prolonged pain, like for really long periods of time, and it's really persistent, it keeps coming back, and you're getting this kind of aching feeling constantly in joints, and especially those ones I mentioned, probably a good idea to book in to see a physiotherapist. Now, I would obviously recommend, yes, booking in to see a PT to get your form right, but just keeping in mind that a physiotherapist is kind of like an upgraded version of a PT. They're going to have expertise in areas of human movement and in muscular imbalances, etc., and they are there to help you. That is their job. A couple of sessions with them and they'll be able to pinpoint exactly what's going on for you and move forward with exactly how to do the exercises you've been doing, which have been causing the problems for you. And it probably is going to be a long-term thing that you'll have to maintain. So, the next point, you're not happy with the way you look or feel currently, and therefore you're not feeling confident to step into a gym or even exercise or do your workouts. This one is kind of like a form of self-sabotage. I'm not happy with the way I look and therefore I don't want to go and train. Well, that kind of feeds into itself, doesn't it? If you're not happy with the way you look, that's understandable. It's actually okay to feel that way. It's okay to feel like your confidence is shot, like you're really struggling to look in the mirror. I've heard this before, to look in the mirror or to take your clothes off. I know these are very simple things, but there are many people who are struggling to do this on a daily basis. If you are struggling with this, it must be said that one of the best things you can do for this is go and get more regular exercise and address your nutrition. It doesn't help you, and it will not make you feel better if you avoid the things that are going to help you feel better. So sometimes it takes biting the bullet and understanding that, again, there are going to be many people in your same situation who are going to the gym for exactly the same reason, because they want to better themselves. They want to be more confident. They want to improve the way that they feel about themselves, not just the way that they look. The gym is not just full of beautiful people, okay? It's like we have this idea that we rock up to a gym and every single person's a bodybuilder and shredded and, wearing a crop top. No, that's not true at all. There are women's only sections. In fact, now that I think are actually not considered women's only, I think they're now, like, in some places they are like more private sections for those who don't really want to be in, with the big weights and things like that. There are lots of options for people who are struggling with self-esteem. And also, given this, is that when you're walking down the street, when you're in any public space, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's, I don't know, literally it could be anything, you could be at a music concert. If people are not judging you there for the way that you look and that you're okay with that, like you're okay being there, what's wrong with being in a gym? You think that people in the gym are going to judge you for, maybe not being exactly where you want to be, or maybe you feel like you might be a little bit overweight, or you might be like uncomfortable in gym gear, or whatever that might mean for you. I can tell you, as a fit person who, I'm not even fit, I have terrible cardiovascular fitness, so the actual definition of fitness, I don't fit. I can tell you as a person who's a bodybuilder, a national champion, a pro athlete, I walk into a gym and maybe I might be that person that you look at and think, oh, she's got everything, she's got the rig, she's got everything going for her. I can tell you that if I see people in the gym, I don't give a fuck what they look like. I'm happy they're there. I'm actually really proud of anybody who's able to get to a gym, whether you have this body type, that body type, whether you're wearing a big baggy t-shirt, whether you're wearing little shorts, I don't give a shit, right? And this is from somebody who literally does this for a living, and literally, this is the focal point of what I do for work. If somebody is judging you internally based on the way that you look or what you are wearing, that says more about them than it does about you, and their maturity levels are literally below, well, they're kind of on the ground, really, aren't they? People judging other people for the way they appear are not, they don't feel good about themselves. They're not secure within themselves. If you say nasty things, even if it's in the inside about somebody else, you have a problem with yourself. You really do, So if you find yourself internally trolling other people at the gym, and you're worried if people are internally trolling you, maybe just stop doing the thing and then you won't worry about it as much. So if you're struggling with your self-confidence, I'm going to say to you, I don't want to hear your excuses. I'm going to smack that in your face and go, it's okay to not be confident. It's okay to struggle with your self-confidence. It's okay to, not feel your best right now. That's why you're doing something about it. Staying where you are right now is not actually going to help you move forward. It's not going to help you improve that problem. It's not going to help you get yourself out of that situation. And it's not an excuse to keep yourself there either. So, and also, don't be fascinated with being perfect. How do you get the perfect bod that you want? Or like, how would you even get there if you're not getting, I just want to make sure that I'm fit before I go to the gym. Where's that going to happen? Where is any of that going to happen? You can train in your garage as much as you like, but there's more equipment in the gym. There's lots of people trying to do the same thing, right? It's just like going to a grocery shop to go grocery shopping. You don't worry whether someone judges you what you're putting in your trolley. You're all there for the same thing. Okay, so next point. You are probably stressed about something else or thinking about something else completely unrelated to training, and your training feels like a chore, or you can't focus while you're training. I think this is pretty prevalent in probably every single person I've ever coached, in that they can't focus on their training because this is happening and this bill is due and I got to pick up the kids and la 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 la. It's like 50 thoughts going on in their mind, and they pull up at the gym and they're like, ugh, this is just a pain in the ass for me. Going to the gym is just terrible because I can't focus on all this crap I have to do. Their to-do list is so long that the gym just feels like it's an interruption. It's just like an inconvenience. And this is where perception changes everything. Unfortunately, if you do not begin to perceive your workouts and your exercise as a form of self-care, as a way of looking after yourself, as a way of going, no, I'm done worrying about that bullshit for the day, I'll come back to it, you will never, ever, ever embrace your workouts. You will never enjoy them because your head's too far off in bloody la-la land. You're so distracted, you can't even finish your workout. You can't do the sets, you can't do the exercises. I will often treat it this way when I go and train. When I rock up, I guaranteed rock up and I'm like, oh, that's right, I got to update that program. And then I send, oh, sorry, I got to send so-and-so this message. That's right. And I've got to go for coffee with so-and-so tomorrow. I've got a meeting in the morning. And my brain is just like, and it tells me, oh no, you don't deserve to go do this workout, Mariah, because you got to do all that stuff. All that shit you got to do. You haven't even done meal prep. You got to go do the shit. You got to do the washing. The list goes on. And obviously when I have children, that this will completely change everything, and that'll be thrown there too. But what you need to practice is when you pull up at that gym, it's literally like closing a book. That's it. Shut. No more thinking about that. It's my exercise time because it's my self-care time. If you do not treat exercise time like when you walk into a cinema and you turn your phone off, because that is the right thing to do so you can enjoy the movie, then you will never enjoy your exercise. You will constantly be pulling yourself away from it. And trust me, your workouts will take twice as long as they actually need to. Put your phone down. Exit out of everything that you can. Only play music. Put your headphones in so you don't get interrupted. Tell people you've got a time limit. Work on a time limit as well. Okay, so have a timer on your phone. And tell yourself, the world doesn't need me right now. I have this hour for me. And it's okay to have this hour for me because interrupted, I will not enjoy this. You don't go for a massage and then, your bloody boss is in there every 10 minutes whispering through the curtain, by the way, you've got that thing due tomorrow. I just thought I'd let you know that I know you're enjoying your massage, but I just wanted to let you know that it's due by 11 o'clock. No, you're in that massage. You're not with anybody. Why? Because your head's down in the pillow. You have to start treating exercise like that. It is a no-go zone for communication. It is a no-go zone for your brain going to other places. It is being mindful. It's practicing meditation almost whilst you're training. And that can often help when you're listening to music because that's your world. That's your happy place. Listen to the music that you want to listen to. This is your time. So the next point, you don't like the environment that you're training in. Probably an issue that I think most people don't think about is that maybe that gym's not for you. Maybe the equipment isn't right. Maybe people who train there just aren't your people. Maybe you're not meeting any friends that you might want to train with. Maybe there's too many bloody people in that gym. Maybe it's just too big for you and too crowded. Or maybe you don't like the smell of it. Maybe you don't like how hot it is. We are sensitive creatures. We are sensitive to sound, smell, sight, all of the above. And obviously what works for each individual person. Some people like big corporate gyms, some people like small gyms, some people like a group environment because it feels like they're not alone. Whatever that is, you might have to play around with a couple of different gyms. You might have to play around at different times. It might be quieter in the morning than it is in the afternoon. But whatever that looks like for you, make sure your environment is a nice one to step into. And maybe you don't get along with the gym staff. Maybe there's, something that's not quite right about that gym. And if you only have one gym in your town, if it's a small town, maybe it's time to build a home gym. Maybe it's time to have things at home to work with. The equipment, once you bought it, you don't have to buy it again. So, the next point, you don't like training alone, or on the other side, you don't like training around a lot of people. So this one is probably more common in the beginning because people get a little bit put off by the idea that maybe there's a lot of people around you or more than one person around you. Or maybe some people don't like going by themselves. Maybe they need somebody to go with them. There's a pretty simple solution for that. If you don't like training around a lot of people, go to a quieter gym or go at a quieter time. Don't make the excuse that, no, there's too many people, I just won't go. All right, well, you didn't go then. Come back in the morning or try a different time. Or just wait, sit there for like 15 minutes. I'm sure that it will change or clear out, or you'll calm down. Any of those options are going to work, okay? And if you don't like training alone, I can guarantee there's someone in your friendship circle that will either want to start training at the gym or who has trained at the gym before. Otherwise, the old-fashioned, literally walk up to somebody who looks pretty friendly. I know this is probably gonna make you shit yourself if you try it. I've had so many people do this to me, and I love it when they do. If you see a chick or a dude lifting pretty heavy, I can guarantee that if you walk up to them and go, oh man, like that's really impressive, like, oh, sorry, I'm new here, like, what's your name? Guarantee they'll be nice. It'd probably be like 1 in 1,000 that'll be like, and they're probably just shy. But I can guarantee you that starting conversations will actually help you find a gym buddy. And it can break down those barriers a little bit for you as well, realizing that we're not that scary. Okay, so next point. You might be plateauing with your strength, body goals, or fitness. All right, so this might be making you feel like you're not getting anywhere, you're frustrated that your progress is not moving along fast enough, even though you feel like you're doing everything right. Maybe you feel like, oh my God, maybe I have to change my training. The only real instances where your training needs to be changed is if it's just not hard enough for you anymore, if you're not challenged by it. Maybe yes, maybe you need to increase your sets, maybe you need to increase your reps, maybe you need to change the exercises, not because you're bored with the types of exercises, but maybe you've been doing cable kickbacks and they no longer do anything for you because you're too strong. There are different progressions for beginner, intermediate, and advanced training. Like, that's just the case by any means. We can't just throw a beginner into doing, heavy deadlifts. That's just not how gym works, okay? So it might pay to actually get a qualified trainer to do up a program for you so that you've got something to work with, and that as you advance with your training, that they can advance your training for you, communicate that to your coach. But I can guarantee you though, it won't need to happen every 4 weeks. Generally, you'll see that your training adaptations will occur around 6, 8, 12 weeks roughly, and then you'll probably see every 6 months you might need a significant change in training. I know, right? Doesn't seem like that much, but you want to make sure that you progress as much as physically possible in that training program, and then you go, I'm kind of hitting a ton of plateaus. There'll be 2 things you probably need to do. One of them is probably make the exercises harder, or actually 3. One is make exercises harder because you're not training hard enough as well. You might not be pushing hard enough, so therefore it's on you, not on your coach. You might need to change the skill of the exercises so that yes, they are, more challenging. You can put more weight on them. You might need a deload week. You actually might be training too hard, and you actually might be at a point where you're plateauing because your poor central nervous system is shot. You need a break, right? So that might be if you've been training for 6 months straight, something like that. And then the third thing is your bloody food. You may not be eating enough food if you're not progressing with your lifts, and your sleep, if you're not recovering. Of course, you're not going to progress. You're going to plateau really quickly and you get really cranky and frustrated. And then maybe the other one, there's probably 4 or 5 now, you're not being bloody patient, all right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen people go, how long does it take me to grow muscle? As long as it takes. Probably years. And yes, it is. It's going to be years. You do not get to start a fitness journey and a year later, you've got shoulders like mine. It doesn't work like that. There are going to be genetic anomalies, probably 1% of the maybe even less, of the population who might be able to do that because they may have a history of those muscle fiber types, okay? But most of the time, it's going to take years to grow muscle, and it's going to take years to grow significant amounts of muscle. It's a lot harder than you'd think. So if you're feeling like, I'm plateauing, I've been stuck on the same weights for a few weeks now, have a chat to your trainer. Have a chat to your trainer and see, is that normal? Can you increase the reps? Can you add another set in if you don't have enough sets in there? Can you talk to somebody about, okay, maybe I can increase the difficulty. Maybe I can go from cable work to a little bit more dumbbell and barbell work. It's those small changes that can actually help with plateaus and identifying exactly which one of them you're struggling with, so that you can put together, how to move forward from there. But it's not as simple as, let's change every exercise in your program to give you lots of variety, to keep you super motivated and driven, because it may not be the reason why you're plateauing. It's not actually needing a change in exercise types, but a change in maybe the level of stimulus, whether it be going down or going up in stimulus, or whether it's simply trying to give your body more energy to perform better. Okay, so it feels like you can't tell if there's any difference from when you started. Another one, impatience. I'm just going to say that. Impatience and not following your food plan. Literally. And probably not training hard enough. Like, those 3 things. You're not patient enough. You think it takes a lot less time than it actually does. Ask anybody who's built a significant amount of muscle, they've done bodybuilding shows, or even just in general, they've gotten fit, or they've got this amazing bod or whatever. Ask them how long they've been training for. And ask them how long it took them until they saw results. They probably won't be able to tell you. I guess maybe a year? And you're like, oh no, I don't have a year. Mate, you've got the rest of your life. Of course you've got a year. And guess what? You've got to keep doing it if you want to keep it. So you do have a year. You've got the rest of the 10, 20, 30 years ahead of you, 40 years ahead of you. 50 years if you're lucky, right? So you do have time. You're just literally getting shitty with something that you're going to need to do anyway and to continue to need to do anyway. So stop asking how long it's going to take and just keep going to the gym and keep getting better with your nutrition and more adherent. Hold yourself more accountable. Take more responsibility. Stop palming it off to be somebody else's problem. Talk to a professional. Talk to lots of professionals. Get second opinions. Talk, communicate, and also be honest with yourself. So, you may not be pushing hard enough with your training to challenge you, and on the other hand, you may be pushing too hard and overtraining. I already mentioned this, but if you're overtraining, you probably need a deload week, and a lot of people are doing this, especially if you're a person who is very hard on themselves and like you think you have to train 7 days a week and you think you have to train six weight training sessions and then you've got to go for a run afterwards, or you're just doing too much. That's on the hand of overtraining. That may be turning you off your training. I know, crazy, right? And not training hard enough, probably the one I see more often than overtraining, but basically you're not pushing hard enough, you're not challenging yourself, you're not taking it to the next level, and therefore you feel like you're hardly breaking a sweat. You probably can lift heavier than you currently are, and you probably can stop talking so much at the gym. I'm pretty bad for this. I talk a lot at the gym, probably why I'm not massively jacked by now. But I catch myself on it as well, and if I'm plateauing or if I'm not necessarily finding I'm pushing myself as hard, I will just kick my own ass and realize, hold on, you're probably playing it safe here, especially with exercises that are not high risk, where they're back supported. I'll be like, okay, cool. I can't really hurt myself if I just add a little bit more on there. I'm not going to hurt myself, badly with this one. But, high risk exercises like deadlifts and squats with a barbell, they're a little bit more concerning. Overhead presses, that type of thing, just standing up, because you're not in a position where you've got your back and your spine supported. So those types of exercises, going super heavy for those for an ego lift is just dumb unless you have a spotter or unless you've worked your way up to that point slowly. So, I've mentioned deload week if you've been training for months and months without a bit of a break. So that one obviously is just a no-brainer, 1 to 2 weeks off training entirely, or just basically stepping it back a little bit. Very difficult to do for those who are super driven. Very good for your central nervous system. Something I've been doing far more regularly than more now than ever is doing deloads. Specifically if I feel like I'm going to the gym and I'm just going through the motions and like even my current lifts just don't feel good. I'm not getting a good mind to muscle connection. Usually that will tell me I need a massage, a release massage as well, because I'm not getting a lot of that proper elongation, and contraction of the muscle. So it's usually those two things that will tell me, hold on, I need to get back with, my recovery and my release work, even my sleep as well. Generally, sleep will be a massive part of it if you've got any sort of sleep deprivation, so less than 8 hours for women and less than 7 for men. This is where you will, and this leads me to my next point, this is where you will see yourself losing a lot of motivation for your sessions. And it's not because you've got this weird magical thing happening with motivation in your mind when you go to the gym. It's if you have not slept enough, your body is not going to want to push hard. You actually don't have the ability to do so. You're not going to be able to recruit the muscles. You're probably going to be more injury prone as well. And so you're not going to get this amazing mental buzz from it because your body would rather be asleep, You'd rather be catching up on that 1 hour. You cannot force your body to do things that it's not fundamentally built to do without the right amount of sleep. And you can't cheat the system, but I'm fine on 6 hours. You're not. There are going to be a very small percentage of the population, again, that can live off 5 to 6 hours and function perfectly, and they'll never be able to sleep 7 or 8 because they've never been able to, unless they're caffeine junkies, right? And that's just a caffeine problem. But it's probably going to be that a very small percentage of the population can get away with that little sleep, and then most of the population will need more sleep for more energy. That's the whole principle of recovery. To come back better, basically, after you've slept. So I mentioned that obviously with injuries and things like that, if you're feeling like you've got pre-existing injuries and they keep resurfacing, then that's probably going to frustrate you and make you not want to train. Might not be a bad idea to take a couple of days off. It might not be a bad idea to take time off that exercise. We know that this is a very grey area when it comes to physiotherapy and recommendations. Most physios will tell you it's okay to take time off that specific exercises that's causing the problem in the initial phases of acute pain. But then we want to reintroduce that movement pattern slowly over time in a more appropriate manner that actually helps you manage that injury. There is no point in treating an injury just like it's an accident. Most injuries are actually preventable and manageable. It's what's called prehab or end rehab, right? We don't want to get to a point where you're injured and then we do rehab, and then we don't do any prehab. We don't do any sort of like, okay, so how do we stop this from happening again? If it's a reoccurring injury, it's most likely going to be something you need to work on. You need to go and see a physiotherapist. They do this specifically. Do not, unless you've got an amazing coach who's somehow qualified in physiotherapy, nutrition, and obviously body sculpting, and that's their thing. Rarely will you find someone like that. If you've got a coach who covers all bases, awesome. If you don't, treat a physiotherapist, kind of like going to see, a doctor for your joints and for your movement patterns. They are fantastic. This is what they do. I work with many physiotherapists. I don't have as much of an interest in prehab and rehab. I understand it entirely. I understand how important it is and how necessary it is. My programming is specifically designed for this now more than ever, to try and prevent injuries and to actually manage people's injuries when they come to me as well. And I can actually program for this stuff. But I like having other professionals to work in for this type of thing so that you can actually start to fall in love with your training again and have your coach work with the physiotherapist in your rehab and managing the injury long term, instead of just trying to do the same thing you were doing before and not expecting the injuries to reoccur. So, next point. You feel like the time that you need to train is taking away from your personal life or your career, and therefore you resent your training. This can happen pretty much with anything in life, whether it's your training program, whether it's your relationship with your partner, whether it's your kids, and you feel like, you resent that they're there or the exercise is there because it's taking you away from something else. Again, we'd have to treat your exercise like it is self-care, and it's actually necessary for your own health. If you avoid it, ignore it, and think I've got more important things to do, like having a beer with the boys at the pub, or I've got to mow the lawn, like, oh God, the exercise is just a pain in the ass, you are never going to have a sound understanding of what health means and how important it is to you. Because as much as our friendships are important, as much as many things are important in our life, we can't function as human beings without taking care of ourselves. And exercising is honestly incredible for you. It's fantastic for preventing all sorts of things like arthritis. It's fantastic for managing things like mental health issues, anxiety, depression, etc. What is the point in treating it like it is an inconvenience to you when it's actually a privilege that you can even do this? It's a privilege that you can move your body. It's a privilege that you can get off your ass every day. It's a privilege you're not in a wheelchair. And I know that sounds really woke, but it's true. Stop treating exercise like it's an inconvenience, like it's getting in the way, like you just got to get it done because you have an entire mobile body. And if you don't, I know that many people who don't have mobile bodies that are in positions where they might be in a wheelchair, or they might be, there's women who only have one leg that I've known, but they're still there moving. They're doing what they can because they know that it is still such a privilege to be able to do something with their body because you are alive. And if you do not respect exercise, if you do not value the time that you're exercising for and you value something else more, then you will continue to have this shitty attitude towards exercise because you don't even view it as important enough in your life. And you don't even view it as being in those the top 5 most important things, being your exercise, your nutrition, your sleep. And then, you've got your career and your relationships, right? And your relationships would be inclusive of your kids, your partner, etc., etc. It is crazy to think that people seem to want to eliminate 3 incredibly important things in their life. 3 incredibly important things in their life in order to pay more attention to these other things. But the funny thing is, and this is the reality of it, is you will not be around to do those things if you continue to treat yourself like shit. They have to come before, and they have to be a priority even when you don't feel like it. So, the next point. You're tired, not enough sleep. If you're tired and you're rocking up to the gym, you don't feel like training. Again, as I said, probably not enough sleep. Get more sleep. Remove things from your life that are distracting you from your sleep, not the other way around. Don't try and cheat your sleep and cheat your training. Get your priorities straight. Straighten them up. However your life is currently, if you're not looking at exercise in a positive light, in a positive sense, I'm going to tell you, your attitude towards your exercise and your training is a choice. It has nothing to do with what's happening in your life and everything to do with what you're choosing to do in your life. So, now, there's obviously mums, I know, and parents out there, they probably hate it when I go on about sleep because they're like, I'm sleep deprived, my kid's waking up all the time, etc. There's a disclaimer here. Yes, if you are sleep deprived and you are struggling with getting enough sleep in because you're a new parent or whatever, you just are a parent, please understand that I'm not trying to drive this home from a perspective of those nights where you just can't control it, but more so from a when can you get sleep in? Can you nap with them? Can you work on the weekends where, you know, one partner gets up and the other doesn't? For single mums or single dads, this is a lot harder. Can you have some support networks? I've spoken about this in a previous podcast. Do not isolate yourself, because if you do that, this is a recipe for disaster. And if you don't sleep enough, it's known you're not going to live longer. If you sleep enough, you will live longer. It is literally like you're adding decades to your life. So sleep is not just beneficial for exercise. It's not just beneficial for nutrition. For your general health, and for your energy levels, and for your moods, and for your, you know, whether you have positive or negative thought patterns. It's actually beneficial for the longevity of your life. So this is a common one. I say this all the time. Mental exhaustion is causing an aversion to exercise. So you're mentally exhausted, you're stressed, you finish work, you're just over it, you're over people, you're over the day. This will often I see clients say to me, I've just had a big day. And I'm like, okay, what have you been doing? You've been lifting shit all day? Like you've been doing physical labor? No, I just had a really big day. It was really stressful. I was in a board meeting for 12 hours or whatever. You know, so you sat on your bum for 12 hours while somebody talked at you and you talked at them. And I understand your poor brain is cooked and fried. And now you're worried about going to the gym because you think it's going to tax your mind. This is the issue, is that what happens is when our cortisol levels increase to a certain extent with things like work, pressures, etc., we start to try and avoid things that are going to spike our cortisol. Now, exercise will see an increase in cortisol. So you'll subconsciously want to avoid anything that requires significant effort. That's just kind of like your body's subconscious way of saying, nope, no more. I'm done. I need to rest. A few solutions to this. You can go home and sit for 20 minutes, 15 minutes in silence in a dark room if you want to. Have a shower, have a cold shower, have a hot shower, whatever. Listen to some relaxing music. Separate yourself from what you were doing previously for the day, and then again, close the book. Get yourself in a position where you can go to the gym and realize that the exercise is probably actually going to help you get rid of this mental exhaustion. How many times have you been mentally fatigued, drank a shit ton of water, had a bit of a snacky snack, right? Driven to the gym, put some pump up music on, and all of a sudden your mind frame has changed. Interestingly enough, it's because of a hormone. It's because of a release of something called serotonin when we listen to music. And you can also see the small release of things like dopamine. And if you're saying nice things to yourself, a bit of oxytocin. And then once you get into your exercise, you see a release afterwards of endorphins. The endorphins will battle some of the cortisol that you've had spiking during the day from these stressful situations and being around your children, etc., etc. So stop using the excuse that you're mentally tired. You can't exercise because you're mentally tired. Yes, it's a good thing to rest, but it's also a good thing to exercise. If you've had enough sleep, to go and get exercise to help out with that mental fatigue. And it's amazing. You feel like you've had a big reset, and you can tell people to go get fucked. How good is it, right? After a training session, you're like, nah, I'm not dealing with anyone. Shit, I'm strong and I'm powerful and I feel amazing. So, often it can really assist. Okay, next point. You are not managing your time efficiently, and you're not prioritizing exercise. So you're basically, again, this feeds back into the idea that you think something else is more important, but basically you're just jam-packing other shit into your day. You're putting like all these other things in there that don't need to be in there. You're not asking for help. You're not getting some sort of assistance in your life with whatever it might be that you probably could. You probably could ask for some help from the neighbor, or you probably could ask for some help from your best friend, or you probably could ask for some help from your partner, but you're choosing not to, and therefore you're just smushing it all into a day, and then your exercise comes last. And if you are not managing your time efficiently and effectively, if you're spending lots of time on social media, if you're scrolling through Facebook, TikTok, and all of a sudden the day's disappeared, that's on you. You haven't managed your time effectively. Creating structure and routine, I talk about this with my clients, is so important for factoring in your exercise sessions. Know what time you can go, whether it's more frequently at certain times, or whether it's going to change from day to day. But the way that you plan that in is, instead of going, I'll do it if I get time, don't say that. Just like you do with doctor's appointments, just like you do with picking up the kids, just like you do with whatever it might be, getting ready for work. You give yourself half an hour to get ready for work and half an hour to drive to work. Do the same with your exercise. Instead of trying to just see if it happens, put it into your planner, put it on your wall, on your whiteboard, put it in your phone, put it in your calendar, whatever you need to make sure it becomes a regular thing, because those time blocks, if you give that to exercise, instead of social media, and you might be listening to this podcast while you're training or whatever you're doing, walking, if you give your time beforehand and you actually allocate that time, you will end up doing it. If you didn't give yourself an hour to get ready for work and you just went, oh, just see if it happens, and you didn't put your alarm on, and then you just woke up whenever and then just got dressed and kind of moseyed on in, you wouldn't even make it on time. You wouldn't be able to keep your job. So stop treating your exercise like it's something that you can just, whenever I feel like it or if I get there. No, put it in, make sure it's a part of your day, make sure it's a part of your structure. So you do not have a structured training program and you feel like you are just following a random workout. Probably not as common these days. I see a lot of people actually following structured programs, but if you feel like you're losing your drive because you don't have a structured program, get a structured program. It's very easy, it's very accessible. Don't make the excuse that you can't find one. I sell them for $60 online as a once-off. You don't even have to have any ongoing fees. Get a trainer, get a coach, get someone who will write one up for you who's qualified. The list goes on. Structure means that you've got something to follow in front of you instead of just going to the gym and guessing what you're going to do. Or make yourself a structured program. I don't recommend this from a professional sense, but certainly when you're first starting out. So, another couple of points. You don't feel like you can celebrate any of your wins with anybody because you don't have anyone to talk to them about or bounce ideas off for your goals. This one I probably think is probably more common for those who don't have people in their life who are exercising. I think that if you've got a friend to talk about, celebrate your wins, text them, oh my God, I got a PR, I got a PB, or I did, if you're a runner, hey runners out there, if you're listening, if you're a runner, I got this certain time, oh, I'm so excited. If you have a coach, the amazing thing is that we love it when you win. We love it when you win. We obviously are there when you're struggling as well, but we love it when you win. So it's nice to actually be able to share this with somebody. If you have a coach, they're great for accountability. Is mostly just being there and making sure that you show up, and not just that, but being someone to talk to about the things that you're enjoying and the things that you're struggling with. So maybe it's because you've got no one to talk to about your training. So you're relying on being motivated all the time. This is one of the best ones to train instead of realizing why you train in the first place. I think the most common reason why people lose motivation isn't because of actually all of the extrinsic things and external things, but it's because of an internal process. It's because people are fascinated with motivation, like, oh, I was really motivated at the start of my journey, and like now I'm just not. You don't feel driven. You're just like, I feel like I have to be motivated. Like, we're talking about enjoying your workouts, but I feel like I have to be motivated to get to the gym. And I think that when you do that, it means that you enjoy less, and it's like when you're not motivated and you go, you're not enjoying it as much. My advice is to celebrate when you do go, when you're going when you don't feel like it. Get to the gym and just have a little moment and be like, oh my God, I actually got in the car. I did not want to be here. I am here. And talk to people about that. Be like, I didn't really feel like going tonight, but I did because I know what I want to do. Remember why you started. Remember why you're training. Remember why it's good for you. Remind yourself and realize that I'm going to say that probably 80% of the time when I train, I'm not motivated. Like I'm running off 20% hype girl. That's it. The rest of the 80% is, I don't want to be here. I'm tired. Like, all those random thoughts that go through your mind. I used to be addicted to training. I think now more than ever, because I'm busy and I obviously run a business, etc., that, I do often feel like training is just, I don't know, something that I don't look forward to as much anymore. But it's not because my training needs to, drastically change or anything like that. I know that it comes from a position where I don't necessarily need to feel good in the first 15 minutes, but I know that I will at the end of it, and I know I'll feel accomplished. So I always look forward to, with motivation, and instead of relying on feeling epic in the first part of the workout or even before it, I always rely on the feeling that I'm going to get afterwards. And that's not motivation, but reward, sure. Like, not feeling good about something doesn't mean that you're not going to feel good about it once you've finished it. Look forward to the thing that comes afterwards. Look forward to the delayed gratification. There's instantaneous gratification and delayed gratification, and you will see more instantaneous because people are addicted to having something now. Like, you know, you can't argue with me. You want things now. Instead of looking at, I will feel better about this over time and also at the end of my workout. That's delayed gratification. It's something that you will, if you can access this and understand this, instead of being addicted to something instantaneous, you will unlock some major wins in your life and start doing things differently. Okay, so the final point, you only go to the gym or exercise when you're motivated to do so, which obviously was part of that point that I was just talking about. But basically, if you only do that, then you're not going to enjoy your workouts. You're not even going to get to the gym because, you know, if that was my theory, I'd end up at the gym maybe once or twice a week. So, you know, you're not always going to feel amazing about going, as I mentioned, but don't rely on that. You know, have some discipline, self-discipline, and don't glorify the idea of being fucking stoked all the time about training. It's not, we want to enjoy training, we want to enjoy exercise as much as possible, and it could be that you play soccer, or it could be you do gymnastics or whatever, but I can guarantee anybody who's been sticking to a sport, gym, whatever, for a prolonged period of time, they will tell you that they're not stoked every single session to be there. They're not on top of the world all of the time with their results or even with their training. But they know that if they keep showing up, they're going to get better, they're going to feel good about it, and they'll look back and realize how far they've come. So a couple more ways to enjoy your training is to listen to music that you enjoy, is to wear clothes that you're comfortable wearing, is to go with a friend. Try and make it a more positive experience and try and reframe your attitude towards exercise, because I can guarantee that most of your aversion to exercise is, and maybe it might be the type of exercise, maybe you need to change from, it might be that you want to change from weights training and you want to become a marathon runner, but know that you cannot do that if it doesn't align with your goals. So maybe you want to start team sports, maybe you want to start CrossFit, but just make sure that that type of training aligns with what you're wanting to achieve for yourself before you go and do that and think, oh, this is so romantic, something new, something exciting. Check yourself before you make these decisions. Most of the time, your lack of enjoyment of your exercise is going to be your attitude. Okay, so that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this vlog and podcast. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Even rate our podcast if you can, because it all helps with exposure. Looking forward to doing another one for you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.